The late afternoon of December 15, 1967 was cold. Christmas lights twinkled in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and Gallipolis, Ohio. Traffic was heavy on the Silver Bridge during rush hour. Shoppers hurried home unaware of the impending disaster. Suddenly, a sound like a gunshot echoed across the river. The massive steel structure began to tremble. The bridge, an engineering marvel, was surrendering to unseen forces. The air filled with the shriek of twisting metal. The unthinkable was happening. Cars and trucks were tossed into the air, plunging towards the icy water. The Silver Bridge was disappearing into the frigid depths. 46 souls would perish in those terrifying moments. The disaster struck without warning, leaving a community shattered. The bridge, designed to connect, had become a chasm of death. The cold waters of the Ohio River were now a grave. The world watched in horror as the news spread. How could such a thing happen? What unseen flaw had brought down this mighty structure? What horrors still lay hidden beneath the surface? The tragedy left a nation in shock. The Silver Bridge was a product of its time, conceived in an era of bold engineering. The G.E. Greiner Company of Baltimore, Maryland designed it. Holton D. Robinson, the chief design engineer, employed innovative techniques. One was the use of heat-treated high-strength I-bar chains. The American Bridge Company of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania handled construction. The bridge was completed in 1928, a marvel of modern engineering. It featured a unique two-pin rocker-type I-bar suspension system. The engineers believed they were building a structure that would stand for generations. The I-bars were forged from 1060 carbon steel, heat-treated for high tensile strength. The design relied heavily on the integrity of each I-bar. The failure of one could have catastrophic consequences. However, this innovative design carried inherent risks. The heat-treating process could make the steel more brittle. Stress corrosion cracking and corrosion fatigue were potential dangers. These were not well understood in the 1920s. The engineers worked with the best knowledge available. They could not foresee the microscopic flaws that might develop over decades. They could not know the tragic destiny that awaited their creation. The Silver Bridge's failure highlighted the vulnerability of older bridges. It showed that existing inspection methods were inadequate. The disaster served as a stark warning. It forced a fundamental rethinking of bridge safety and maintenance. The legacy of the Silver Bridge is one of improved safety. The Silver Bridge, officially the Point Pleasant Bridge, opened on Memorial Day 1928. It was a vital link between Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and Canoga, Ohio. Before its construction, crossing the Ohio River required a ferry. The bridge became essential for commerce and daily life. Its distinctive silver paint made it a landmark. For nearly 4 decades it served faithfully. Thousands of vehicles crossed it daily. The bridge was a 2-lane structure with a main span of 700 feet. Its design capacity was based on the Ford Model T. Over the years, vehicles became much heavier, increasing stress on its components. The Silver Bridge was initially privately owned. It was sold to the West Virginia State Road Commission in 1941. It became part of U.S. Route 35, a major east-west corridor. The bridge's importance grew over time. It was inspected periodically, but methods were limited. They could not detect the internal flaws developing within the I-bar chains. The bridge carried its increasing burden, its hidden weaknesses growing silently. The stage was set for a catastrophic failure. The Silver Bridge's collapse underscored the importance of understanding material properties. It highlighted the effects of fatigue and corrosion on aging infrastructure. Engineers learned valuable lessons about redundancy in design. Modern bridges are designed with multiple load paths to prevent catastrophic failures. The Silver Bridge is remembered for the positive changes it inspired. In the years leading up to the collapse, there were subtle signs. The bridge was known to sway, especially in high winds. Some residents reported the swaying had become more pronounced. Truck drivers developed a habit of rocking the bridge. There were reports of unusual noises often dismissed as normal. In hindsight, these noises might have been the sound of metal fatiguing. Maintenance and inspection routines were in place. However, the critical I-bar chains presented a unique challenge. The design made it difficult to see inside the joints. A crucial flaw was developing in I-bar 330, a tiny stress corrosion crack had formed. Over decades, this crack slowly grew, invisible to the naked eye. Each passing truck, each temperature change, contributed to its propagation. The bridge was aging, its materials fatiguing. The stage was set for a catastrophic failure. No one saw it coming until it was far too late. December 15, 1967 was bitterly cold. Traffic on the Silver Bridge was heavier than usual. Around 4:58 p.m., the moment of failure arrived. I-bar 330, weakened by a crack, could no longer bear the strain. The tiny crack suddenly propagated across the entire I-bar. With a sharp, explosive sound, it fractured. The entire northern I-bar chain on the Ohio side was compromised. The bridge was not designed to withstand such a sudden redistribution of forces. A chain reaction of destruction was underway. The entire central span plunged into the icy waters of the Ohio River. 31 vehicles fell with it. The scene was one of utter devastation. The once proud Silver Bridge was a mangled wreck. 46 people lost their lives in the collapse. The disaster unfolded with terrifying speed. There was no time to react, no time to escape. For those on the bridge, it was a sudden descent into a nightmare from which many would not awaken. The collapse of the Silver Bridge sent shockwaves through Point Pleasant and Gallipolis. Those on shore watched in disbelief and horror. Emergency services were immediately overwhelmed. The disaster had severed the primary link between the two communities. Boats were launched to find survivors. The icy water offered little chance of survival for those submerged. Darkness fell quickly, hampering rescue efforts. The river current was strong, debris created hazardous conditions. The initial hours were chaotic, information was scarce. Families waited anxiously for news of their loved ones. The scale of the tragedy was slowly becoming apparent. The disaster drew national attention. President Lyndon B. Johnson expressed his condolences. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers was called in to help. The small towns found themselves at the center of a national tragedy. The river had become a place of sorrow and loss. The immediate aftermath was a period of shock and grief, a desperate race against time, a race that many knew was already lost. The community pulled together, supporting each other through the hardship. The memory of that cold December day would haunt them forever. The search for survivors quickly transitioned into a grim recovery operation. Rescuers worked tirelessly in treacherous conditions. The tangled wreckage of the bridge presented immense challenges. Days turned into weeks. The recovery effort was slow and painstaking. Each recovered vehicle brought fresh heartbreak. The divers faced gruesome sights, battling the cold and psychological toll. The entire region mourned. Christmas was a somber affair. The investigation into the cause of the collapse began almost immediately. The NTSB led the inquiry, focusing on the fractured I-bar. Sophisticated analysis revealed a stress corrosion crack. This type of failure was not well understood when the bridge was built. The recovery of all victims took many weeks. The final death toll stood at 46. The disaster left an indelible scar on Point Pleasant and Gallipolis. Families were shattered. The economic impact was significant. The loss of the bridge disrupted commerce and daily life. A ferry service was reinstated, but it was a poor substitute. The community pulled together, supporting each other through the grief. The memory of the Silver Bridge would haunt them forever. A constant reminder of the fragility of life and hidden dangers. The collapse of the Silver Bridge was a watershed moment in bridge engineering. The NTSB's investigation identified the precise cause of the failure. It highlighted the vulnerability of older bridges. The disaster served as a stark warning. In response, the U.S. government enacted new legislation. The Federal Aid Highway Act of 1968 mandated national bridge inspection standards. It required regular inspections of all bridges on federal aid highway systems. This led to the development of more rigorous inspection protocols. The Silver Bridge collapse forced a fundamental rethinking of bridge safety. The legacy of the Silver Bridge is one of improved safety. Many older bridges were re-evaluated, some retrofitted, others replaced. Engineers learned valuable lessons about redundancy in design. Modern bridges are designed with multiple load paths. The Silver Bridge is remembered for the positive changes it brought about. Memorials stand in Point Pleasant and Gallipolis, honoring the victims. They serve as a reminder of the importance of vigilance in engineering. The disaster also became associated with local folklore, including tales of the Mothman. While these stories add mystery, the true legacy lies in the lives saved. The echoes of its collapse continue to resonate, ensuring that the lessons learned are never forgotten.